Hi, social savvy. Welcome to Sunday Paper Live. Rory Clunan, welcome. Boss Lady Trevi, hi. Angie Travels, hi. Lisa Murray, hello. East Sandwich Company, I don't know. Sherry, Donnelly Stearns, Renee 2017, Cats Off Peters. Thank you, Cheryl B. Greenfield. Sonia saying, I love the Sunday paper. Thank you so much. I do too. I love the Sunday paper. Carrie Moody, hi from Toronto. Hi. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so happy. Susie Q Official, good for you. Lisa Murray, hi. Kim in Kansas, hi. University Health System, hi all of you. I hope you're all Sunday paper readers. I hope you are all Sunday paper subscribers. The Sunday paper is a labor of love. It's my fifth baby, so to speak. Every week, our little scrappy staff puts our heart and soul into it. It comes out every Sunday morning, and its goal is to inspire hearts and minds and move humanity forward, one person at a time, one story at a time. And it is a paper with a mission and a purpose, and its goal is to raise voices above the noise and to inspire people really to see themselves as architects of change. People who see what is, imagine what can be, and also move humanity forward. So I'm so grateful for all of you who have joined in here today. Today we're going to talk to Dr. Dharius Daniels. And Dr. Daniels is the founder and lead pastor of the Change Church. He also has his own Dharius Daniel podcast, and he has a book called Relational Intelligence, the people skills you need for the life of purpose you want. And who doesn't need people skills, particularly communication skills right now? And I wanted to have him on because I saw him do an Instagram Live the other day talking about privilege, and the way he explained it was so beautiful and so clear and so thought-provoking. So I thought, well, I want to do a conversation with Dr. Daniels, and we reached out to him, and he said, yep, I'll come on to the Sunday paper and have a conversation about privilege, about how to be an ally in this time, how to have the not only people skills, but perhaps the communication skills. We all want to be having really meaningful conversations at this time that are powerful. And I think people are really sensitive at this time. So how do you have the right kind of conversations at the right time? So thank you, Angelina, saying you look great. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Since the hair hasn't blown out, it's just kind of, it is what it is, right? So we're all kind of is what it is. So anyway, I thought Dr. Daniels would be a really great person to talk to us all. I know I need advice on people skills. I need advice on communication skills. Even though I consider myself a pretty good communicator, I can be better. So there is Dr. Daniel in New Jersey. He lives in New Jersey with his wife and two kids, and I'm in LA, and he's probably there he is. Hi, Dr. Daniels, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. How's everything going in your neck of the woods?
Hey, we're surviving. We're trying to stay sane and safe.
Sane and safe. Well, I think you're helping a lot of us stay sane because I've been watching the Instagrams. I love you have the word think behind you.
Yeah. That's the first book my dad gave me, Think Big.
Think big. Well, I write a column in the Sunday paper every week said, I've been thinking. And I write about what I'm thinking on any given week, about what's going on in the world or things that I've been thinking about. And I've been following you, listening to what you've been thinking about. And I wanted to just, first of all, thank you for coming on. And I know you use your platform to really get people thinking. And what do you want them to be thinking about at this moment in our country?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for inviting me. I want to be very clear on that. Obviously, I've been blessed and inspired by your work
Thank
and
you.
your life and what you represent and how you use your life for the common good. And I'm just really inspired by that. I'm honored to be a part of this. And so
Thank you.
I'm a bit flattered that you watched.
Oh, no. Well, I tell you, I was saying before you came on, I saw this video where you were talking about male privilege.
Hmm.
And you were using that as an example for people who got upset about the word white privilege.
Yes.
And you were
Yeah,
explaining, look at, I'm a man and I have male privilege that my wife doesn't have.
that's
I
right.
don't, I want her to come up to the male privilege part.
Yeah.
And I want her. And so people who bristle at the white privilege thing, we're not trying to take something away from you. We just
Yeah.
want the same privilege. And I thought it was so well done. And
Yes.
I've since followed many other things. So I want to talk about that, but I want to talk kind of overall what you're
Yeah.
trying to get us to think about at this moment.
Well, it's two things primarily. So one, I want everyone, my hope is to contribute to everyone rethinking what they think about race.
Beautiful.
That's really important to me, to rethink what we think about race. And this is what I mean by that. There is, I think, this association with the word race, racism, racial, race is, there's an association of extremism where that means if I fall into that category, I'm committing hate crimes, I am violent, I'm vitriolic, and things of that particular nature.
Mm-hmm.
When what I am attempting to get people to see is that, hey, there are degrees to which a person can fall in that category. And it is at least important to think, to do some introspection and to see beyond a sense of superiority or hate for another race. Do I have an unconscious sense of superiority?
Beautiful.
And is that driving the way that I interact with people? And I believe that it's important, to reconcile this, Maria, not just for one race, not just for African Americans,
Yeah.
but for the human race. I believe diversity is our Creator's design. I think we all benefit from the beauty of what we all bring. And I feel like it needs to be valued in that way. And so for me, those are kind of the two things. Let's rethink what we think about race. And in addition to that, let's see this conversation not just as a conversation we need to have to benefit African Americans, the African American race. This is a conversation we need to have to benefit all races, the human race.
Right. I think that's so beautifully said. And I was watching guess it was yesterday where you were talking about, when you talk about the whole human race, all races, all genders, and then people come back at like all lives matter.
Yeah.
And so like, and then they say, well, I get in trouble for saying all lives matter. And the piece, I guess it was yesterday that I was watching, you were trying to distinguish there why it's important for this moment to drill down on the fact that Black lives matter. And the fact is they don't matter today. And until they really matter, no all lives matter banner works. Is that correctly said?
It is. One of the things that I think is, I think when you talk about race, Maria, there are three groups of people. Mm-hmm. There's a group of people that get it before you say it. Mm-hmm. There's a group of people that will not get it no matter what you say. Mm-hmm. And then there's a group of people that may or may not get it based on what you say and how you say it. And when I'm having these conversations, I'm really, really thinking about, not exclusively, but primarily the people that are in the middle. And so what I'm trying to get people to understand is when we say Black Lives Matter, that is not a statement of superiority. Right. We're not saying we are better than. We're saying we are equal to.
Yes, I repeat that. Will you repeat that? I think it's so important because it also goes for the white privilege. You're using the same argument.
Yeah. We're not. It's not a statement of superiority. It's a statement of equality. And we believe that our Creator designed it this way, and the country promises it. That we aren't asking for anything that the country doesn't promise. Right. Liberty and justice for all. And we're saying historically, from the time in which African Americans were seen as 3/5 human, from the time they were enslaved to the time there were laws like Jim Crow that mandated segregation and didn't give access to jobs and loans and things of that particular nature, which is not that long ago. I mean, my mother-in-law was the first teacher to integrate the Clinton public school system is in Clinton, Mississippi, the first non-white teacher to teach there. So it wasn't that long ago. My point is that there are still some vestiges and some residue of that. And we do believe all lives matter. I don't know, very few, of course there are segments, but very few reasonable people are anti-police or anti-any race. We're anti-brutality, you know, and we're anti-oppression. And so if Black is included in all, which it is,
yes,
then all can't matter until Black lives matter.
You did it so well, which is why I'm such an admirer of the way you're explaining this. Why do you think it is that people bristle so much at the white privilege moniker, or the, you know, they bristle up with the all Black lives matter, because their retort is, well, all lives matter, duh. And you know, and yet you've kind of laid it out, I think, so beautifully. What's behind, you think, the threat that people feel with that?
Couple of things. One is, I think, a misinterpretation of what it means. So let's talk about privilege specifically. And so some of that misinterpretation comes from extreme definitions of it. So I would be disingenuous to say that there are not people who view privilege as something that should be taken away from someone else. I am saying that's a fringe, that's a small contingency of persons, but generally speaking, I think that people, by and large, misunderstand what it means because of that extremism and think it infers you didn't earn what you have. That's not what we're saying. That you don't deserve what you have. That's not what we're saying either. Or that we should have what you have. That's not what we're saying. We're not asking for equal outcomes. We're asking for equal opportunity. And that is something we feel like we all deserve. So that's one of the reasons that there's an offense. The other is something, and I hope people don't find this offensive, but I do think there's a degree of, and I'll say this applies to males in America also. There's a degree of white fragility, and there's a degree of male fragility.
Yeah.
And I think whenever there is any type of critique or criticism, the fragility of our egos make us respond in such a visceral way to something that's really not an attack on us, just a challenge for us to use the privilege that we have in a way to make life more equitable for someone else.
You said something in there, you know, you thought that some people are thinking or hearing, right? Very often in conversations, people hear what they want to hear, and they don't even hear what the person is saying. But you said that you think some people think, oh, you didn't deserve it. You didn't work hard for it. That's such a judgmental, I mean, who's anybody to say about that, right? Yeah. Who is somebody to say your life is easy, your life is hard, you're rich, how do we get away from that? How do we get to this place where we're not judging each other so harshly?
Yes. You know, Maria, I think the only answer to this is relationships.
Yeah.
I really do. Because relationships and this requires intentionality, because it requires relationships with people across racial lines, one, where there are limited power dynamics. That's really important. Because
Explain that.
So for example, let's say if I have a relationship with someone who's of a different race and they work for me.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to be transparent to me to some degree, but they also have to take into consideration, is this affecting the way this person sees me? And is it going to affect my employment? You know? Yeah. So that's what I mean when I talk about power dynamics. Now, there are people who are going to be transparent and things of that nature. But the point that I'm making is when people are genuinely establishing cross-cultural relationships, it debunks some of the myths and the stereotypes, at least for people that are open-minded and genuine. I am telling you. So let's just take something like systematic racism.
Something
there's
little
a
like that. Something little like that.
yeah, like some people, I mean, people get all up in arms about
Yeah.
that. I just heard someone recently say, I don't believe in that because that means America's bad. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It just it just means that we're imperfect, and we need to improve it. So the point that I'm making is, for a person to have that stance says to me, not that they're uneducated, it doesn't say that to me at all, but it says that their relationships are not as diverse as they could be and probably should be, because then you will hear the
Yes.
experiences of other people
Right.
that you love, and it moves from an issue to a person. You can say, that doesn't exist. But when you know people,
Yeah.
and you love people and they share their experiences, you believe them. And it kind of shifts, I think, some of our perspective. So I really think, I don't know how you debunk some of these myths without people entering into other people's world. And I got a lot of thoughts on that too.
I love that. I think that's so beautiful. I know you've been saying that a lot of people have asked you in the last couple of weeks, like, how do I be helpful? How do I be an ally? I imagine people are also saying to you a lot, I'm afraid to say the wrong thing. I'm
Yes.
afraid to push the wrong button, because people
Yes.
say that to me all the time. And what is your advice there? I mean, how do we begin to share those experiences without fear?
Yes. Thank you for asking that question. That's been burning in my heart for some time, because this is what I'm saying, Maria. I'm so encouraged by this. I'm seeing people show up to the table to have this conversation in ways that I haven't, at least in my lifetime.
Wow, that's
So
wonderful.
I am so encouraged by that. Now, this is what I'm also seeing that's concerning for me. As many of them are having this conversation, they're misspeaking, and they're getting sometimes vitriolic reactions, and some of that's warranted. But what I don't want is, I don't want people's misspeaking and missteps to cause them to get backlash, where they take that backlash to the degree that they retreat back into a corner and don't have these conversations. So this is really, really tough, because we got to walk a fine line here. But if we're going to ask people to step out and let's talk about this, we got to give people a little grace, so that when they misspeak, we can correct them, because we don't want to alienate allies when it comes to this issue of justice.
Dharius, can you give me an example of a misspeak? If there's somebody who's watching that, go.
Yes. So this one is like really, really recent in the religious circle. There was a gentleman who referred to white privilege as white blessing. Now,
Heard that.
Yeah. So I think his intent was, is there another way we can frame privilege?
Got it.
To make it less combustible and defensive for people who just get a reaction to it.
Right. Good. Okay.
So the heart of what he was getting at, I think, was genuine. And he's probably speaking from his experience with a certain demographic, knowing, okay, these people aren't going to get it unless I reframe it. So that was his intent. But to refer to something that was so detrimental, damaging, oppressive, and sometimes just vitriolic for a group of people, for African Americans, to refer to that as blessing, it's just, that's a misstep. That's just not a word you want to use. So here's the issue. The issue is, I think he was having diverse talks, but not getting diverse thoughts. Meaning,
good. Pause a second. That's really good. Having diverse talks, but not having diverse thoughts. So what we really need are diverse thoughts.
Yes.
Yes. That's beautiful.
Yeah. If he would have had conversations with other African Americans about what he was thinking, then there could have been a degree of correction given to him in private, so he wouldn't have said that in public. Some would have said, okay, I know what you're getting at. I affirm it. I'm with you on that. But this is the reason we can't frame it that way. And so I think that's important.
Yeah, that's super important. I love that, not only having diverse talks, because I hear people saying, well, I'm going to try to have, more diversity in my life, but they're not talking about the thoughts as much as that. But I hear so many people, I would say white people like me, say to me, like, I hear you having these conversations, and I'm terrified to say the wrong thing. I'm terrified to say anything. And I find people somewhat retreating, like, uh-oh, I don't want to say anything, so I say nothing, so I retreat. How do we issue an invitation?
Yes. So I think there are two things. One, I think, and I'm not trying to like make this, I guess, for I don't know, overly emotional, but Maria, I believe love is courageous.
Yeah.
It takes risk.
Yeah. That just
And
gave you
when,
goosebumps.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
courageous. It takes risk.
Yeah.
And, man, you know, I'm a parent, and when I tell you I get it wrong
Yeah.
so much, but because I love my kids, I'm willing to swing again when I strike out. And that is my encouragement for people who feel like, man, I'm afraid, I don't want to get it wrong, etc. I would say, I want you to love other people more than your own feelings, to the degree that you're willing to get them hurt from time to time because you want to be a part of the solution when it comes to this issue.
Beautiful.
That's one. And then two, and I think we really have to take a page out of Dr. Martin Luther King's book with this. We've really got to learn from him when it comes to this. And that is, we also must be open to and willing to invite allies to the table and give them some grace.
Yeah.
When they're willing to show up, even if they're showing up late. And many, we feel like, okay, you're showing up late to the party, but you showed up.
Yeah.
And we're
What's
glad you
your
showed up.
definition of an ally, Dharius? What's your definition?
That's really good. So an ally to me is an anti-racist. So you could be racist, non-racist, and then anti-racist. So for me, when I say anti-racist, it means you're actively working, you're contributing in some way, using the resources, the influence, and the ability that you have to make life more equitable for someone else. And so a person who is actively doing that, and everybody's going to do it differently. Some people, it means they're going to have tough conversations with family members. That's a part of it. Do that. It means other people who may have a different kind of, I don't know, influence are going to use your influence and your platforms and your relationships to have tough conversations with people and to do some of the things that I do. It's going to look differently for everyone, but an ally is an individual that's willing to come alongside others in an attempt to collaborate and to collectively address this issue of injustice.
So, and do people refer to themselves as an ally? Is that okay?
I don't know. And so it's okay to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know if if calling yourself that, it's almost like me saying, you know, Maria, I think I'm an humble guy. No,
Yeah.
I think that.
No, because I hear people using it, and I was like, "What? Why are you using that word? I don't get it." You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think someone else should probably call you. You know, you should probably let someone else call you that. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, people. No, I think that's really good, because people are like, people say to me like, I'm an ally, and I'm like, well, what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
You're around saying I'm an ally, and they're like, well, I just don't want to be a racist. I said, well, you can't just run around and say you're an ally. You know, because I think what you were saying at the beginning is rethinking, re-examining your own belief system, and also relearning much of what you have been taught in school, in history. That's why the other day I was saying that there's a really great collection on Netflix, of Black Lives Matter collection of really films and movies and all sorts of things that you can watch and then talk about as a family or with a friend or whatever. And what I really liked what Dharius was saying is not only have these diversity conversations, but allow diversity of thought to come in and have the courage to speak up and say, hey, it's okay to say, I'm scared, I may say the wrong thing here, but I want to learn, or I'm in the process of unlearning and relearning, correct?
100%. And I think, you know, I think it's going to be a lot of that. This is such a complex and layered issue.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be a lot of hesitancy. I understand why. And I am just encouraging people, as I said before, to love the issue, to love others enough, and to be passionate enough about the issue to say, I'm willing to take some risk. I'm willing to take
Yeah.
some risks here, and I'm afraid. And I think that vulnerability is really, really important too, because I think in a situation like this, I don't think any one of us want to come off as experts because we aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you certainly are a different kind of expert. I mean, we're all experts in a way on our own experiences, but we make such judgments about other people's experiences when we have no idea what they've been through. I think one of the
Yes.
big things is dropping our assumptions and our judgments about other people's life experience, right?
Yes. Yes. 100%.
Yeah, and the book you wrote, which I like, Relational Intelligence, the people skills you need for the life of purpose you want. It's we need people skills, but we really need communication skills, right? Right now.
Yeah, I think yes, we need a lot of that. And so, and let's make a distinction here, right? Between talking and communicating.
Oh,
And so here's my distinction.
okay.
Communication is the transferring of my thoughts, my ideas, and my feelings from one mind to the next. So it means that when we're done with our conversation, my thoughts, my feelings, my ideas have gone from my mind to another person's mind.
Oh, I love that.
That involves two things, right? One, it involves me talking, but it also involves someone else being willing to listen. And that means listening to understand and not just listening to respond.
Beautiful.
And so I think that it's a lot of that, right, going on nowadays. It's a lot of listening to respond instead of listening to understand. Then we're just talking. We're not communicating because you really aren't a person, you really aren't hearing what I'm saying. You don't want to understand what I'm saying. You want me to finish so that I can hear what you're saying.
I love that, the difference between talking and communicating. I hope people really heard that or let that land. It's not having the conversation so you can respond or do a rebuttal. It's just listening and allowing the other person's words to permeate, not just your mind, but your heart.
Yes.
And stay with you.
Yes, absolutely.
So Dharius, finally, are you encouraged by the communication that you're having?
Yes,
Or does it signal to you like, wow, we have a lot of work to do, much more than I thought?
So yes, the answer is yes to both of those questions.
Wow, really?
So this is what I'm encouraged by. I'm encouraged by the increased questions that I'm getting in terms of people's willingness to learn. I'm encouraged by that.
Okay.
Because I think this is the way I felt as an African American, and maybe others have felt this way, is that, I mean, and you spoke to it about assumptions and judgments and things of that particular nature.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like for so long we've been communicating our experience and we haven't been heard. We've been lectured to instead of listened to. Oh no, you should comply. Or if you didn't do this, or if you had more fathers in the home. And so now I feel like there's less lecturing and more listening. So I'm greatly encouraged by that. Then though, as I'm doing talking, I'm hearing how little some people actually know and how far we've got to go to get people up to speed on the reality of the issues. So I've got a cautious optimism, but I am more hopeful and more optimistic, I think, than I've ever been when it comes to this subject.
That's a beautiful thing. I mean, more optimistic than you have ever been.
Yes.
And I think it's really that, as you're saying, that maybe the lecturing is giving way to the listening. I think you've said a lot of really powerful things here to me about, you know, having the courage to step up, right? To unlearn, to rethink
Yes.
racism, to allow the other person's conversation to permeate you, and then come back to stay in it, right?
Yeah.
To stay in the conversation or the communication, whatever the right word that resonates to you, and to not be, not to take this kind of white privilege thing as an attack on you.
Yes.
To understand when you explained it like, hey, I'm a guy and I have male privilege.
Yes.
You had me.
Yeah.
Hey, I have 4 brothers,
Yeah.
and I have always felt, that they had a privilege that I didn't have, right?
Yeah.
And I've always been up against that. So when you said it, I was like, gosh, that's such a good way of explaining it. So I think oftentimes it's the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
It's the teacher. And I saw in your piece when you were talking, you're like, I love America. Doesn't mean I'm proud of everything about America. Doesn't mean I stand for everything that's going on in America, but I love her.
Yes.
I love her. I thought that was also beautifully said. So you're really asking us to hold the paradox in a way, right?
Yes. Yeah. But I think that's what love does. I mean, so I have a teenager.
Good luck. I'm out the other end.
Oh my God. So I asked a friend of mine, there's a friend of mine, he lives in Nashville, and he's an ex-military guy, and we're both the same age, but his child is, his son was, or daughter's older than me or whatever. So I texted him one time, I said, okay, does he get better? He said, yes. He said, yes, it gets better, I promise you. But anyway, I love them. I love my son. I mean, I would give my life for my son.
Yeah.
But because I love him, I want him to be the best version of himself.
Yeah.
And that means I have to lovingly challenge him when there are inconsistencies.
Beautiful.
I feel the same thing. I feel the same thing for our country. My son, I love America. My oldest son is leaving in a couple of weeks. He's going to West Point Military Academy to play football there.
Wow.
And my opinion weighed heavily when it came to his choice. I didn't push him there. He had options. He could have went to Princeton. There are a couple other schools he could have went to. We love the country. We just want it to be the best version of itself.
Beautiful. Lovingly challenged. Dharius, thank you so much for coming on. I want to wish you a happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
This weekend. I want to keep this communication going.
Sure. Be my honor.
Us, and I will be watching you, learning from you. I think you're a really talented and valuable teacher in this moment.
Thank you so much.
And I can hear you when you speak.
Thank
and you land. And I think oftentimes, many of us struggle with someone's tone, whoever it is, right? Talking, right? We can't, some things don't land. When you speak, you land for me. And I hope that you have landed. I know I'm watching all these comments. You're the GOAT. That's not many people are writing that. And how illuminating this conversation. So this conversation, this communication, which is what I'm going to call it.
Yes.
Will continue. And I want to thank you so much for sharing your mind and your heart with us today at the Sunday paper.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
Take care.
Okay. I don't know how I undo that. Okay. Dharius left. Well, I want to thank all of you for joining us for what I think was a really beautiful conversation. Somebody saying, that's my pastor, the preacher, teacher, the GOAT. Beautiful. Lucky you. Thank you, Pastor, for wonderful listening to you. Thank you. Lots of thank yous here. Great conversation. It was. I had a lot of takeaways from that, and I don't often get a lot of takeaways, I got to say. Diversity of thought, listening, not lecturing, dropping our assumptions and our judgments, rethinking, relearning, evaluating racism, going in and checking our own belief systems, and being willing to admit that we've been taught things maybe that weren't correct, and doing the work of relearning. And that's really a beautiful thing, a gift. Someone said, thank you, Queen Maria. I told my son last night, you have to call me Queen Maria. It's funny. It's just a joke. Anyway, thank you all for joining us on the Sunday paper. Keeping eyes and hearts open, cousins. Yes, absolutely. That's our goal. Simplified business flow. Maria, thank you for bringing him to the conversation. We want to thank him for joining in the conversation. And Paula McGee, coloring, you can change yourself, but not another person. I might just differ on that. I think you can change yourself, and I think other people can be changed by the change they witness in you. So I think we're all learning, growing, evolving, and conversations do change other people if we allow them to land in our hearts and minds. So thank you all so much. Please subscribe to the Sunday paper if you don't already. Please share the Sunday paper if you're already a subscriber. We're a paper with a mission and a purpose, and we want to cover the world. We want everybody to be Sunday paper readers, because those are architects of change. And all those people have the mission of creating a more caring, conscious, compassionate, just and loving world. That's what we're trying to create with the Sunday paper. So thank you for joining us. And thank you for saying it was a great conversation. Go on national TV with him. Okay, well, I'm just starting here. So go, it says Maria Shriver /Sunday paper. That's how you sign up, subscribe, and it's free. And you can sign up in the link in the bio. All right, God bless you all and have a great day. Bye-bye.